Good morning, everyone, and welcome. There's the bells. It's a nice touch. I like that. Well, welcome to our community church, Unitarian Universalist, this morning. I am your worship associate, Alicia, and it is a joy to be with you here today. So who are we as community church? We are a progressive, open-minded, and inclusive religious community. We welcome all who are on a spiritual search for truth and meaning. Ours is a faith in action as we do the work of social justice and elevate compassion in our quest to live ethically, recognizing the inherent worth and dignity of every being. You can look to your weekly email for announcements. We have a couple additional announcements this morning. One comes from Marilyn. She says that visitors, guests, newcomers, friends, and anyone else interested in learning more about our church, in having their questions answered, or in possible church membership are invited to attend a newcomers informational meeting immediately following this service today at 12:15 p.m. in the church sanctuary. Beverages and sandwiches will be provided along with interesting conversation. And I'm bringing Kathy up for an additional announcement.
Good morning. So today I'd also like to introduce a new activity for us at coffee hour, because the sermon today is about the 8th principle for the UUA. We'd like to have a little discussion group after, which will be led by Will Hunn. So please gather around the table most immediate to when you walk in the back and join that discussion. Also want to tell you that on April 24th, which is a Sunday, right after Earth Day, we are going to show a film here in the sanctuary at 7:30 at night, because we want the room to be dark enough to be able to really see it. It's about youth versus government, a group of 21 young adults, teenagers, I guess, not quite adults, but have sued the government over their lack of taking charge of climate change. And that's what this is about. So we hope you can join us then. Mark your calendars.
Our call to worship today comes from To Invoke Love by Sean Parker Dennison. To invoke love is to take the risk of inviting chaos to visit the spaces you spent so much time making tidy, and watch as the breath of life scatters everything you have only just folded and put away. To invoke love is to allow for the possibility that your words and actions might become so empowered you can no longer believe in apathy or the self-righteous idea that nothing can change. To invoke love is to give up self-deprecation, false humility, pride, to consider yourself worthy to be made whole, willing to encounter love that will never let us let each other go. To invoke love is to guard against assumptions, take care with our words, and practice forgiveness, not as ethereal ideal, but right here in the messy midst of our imperfect lives. To invoke love is to be ready to become love, here, now, in everything we do. Are you ready?
Dark and kitchens, a house new.
with our chalice lighting. It is Community Church's custom to light a chalice invoking hope and eternal truth to our worship. Please join us in singing "We Light This Flame" with the words as you remember them.
We light this flame to offer the light of truth and knowledge and the whole of unity and the fire of hope and commitment.
Now is our sacred time of joys and sorrows. If you have a need to share with this community, whether it be expressing something that weighs heavy on your heart these days, or letting us know what reason there is to celebrate, you can either write your message in the chat box if you're joining us on YouTube, you can write it on one of the cards which is out in our lobby, or after our musical interlude, we will also have a chance for you to come forward and speak your joys or sorrows as well. Do we have any cards to be brought forward?
No.
Okay. Is there anyone who would like to come up and share a joy or sorrow out loud from the pulpit this morning? Okay, come on.
We got it.
I just want to celebrate that I'm back. Thank you. I have been sick. I'm okay. I have a pulmonary something like maybe asthma, but I can't see the pulmonologist until August. So, but I do have inhalers, and life is much better. So thank you. And I'm not contagious.
I want to celebrate that Alan and I got our second boosters yesterday. So if anybody wonders if they're available, they are available.
Where did we go? Just to follow up on Marilyn, Al and I also got ours, and the place to go is the Auctioner Temporary Clinic at Lakeside Shopping Center in the Restoration Hardware wing of the shopping center. You don't need an appointment, you just walk in and they'll take you. The other thing is I'm having knee replacement surgery next Monday, so spare a thought for me. Next month, the 11th. But I won't be here next Sunday.
I wanted to share with y'all, I've been in contact with Ruben. I don't know if any of y'all remember Ruben. His daughter was living in Ukraine, and she fled before everything happened. And she is now she lived in Kiev, and her husband are now in Italy, and they are going to, it's so hard for them to get, they didn't come to the United States to be with Ruben, so they're doing it another way of, Canada is giving visas away. So they're going to be able to go through there and an easy way. And his son, I didn't know about this, he was living in Russia, and he barely got out before they did martial law. So he is in, I forgot. Yes, but he has no money. He's just lost. So Ruben's been trying to get them all in order, anything. Just wanted y'all aware of that and send him thoughts or give him a call, because he's not doing very well, because he's just, worried about them. And and he found out that he's illegal in Russia now. They won't let him use any of his credit cards, especially if it had American money to it. So, and even his Russian cards, they won't let him use it because he's out of the country. So just send your thoughts to him.
And to add to that, just about a month ago, his mother died.
Yes.
Next week, I will be celebrating two of the greatest loves of my life. My husband, who passed away a year ago, and my granddaughter, who was born 8 days later.
Is there anyone else who would like to come forward? We also have a sorrow from Jim O'Neill, sorrow for those suffering in Arabi and also in Ukraine. But also joy for a Mardi Gras without significant uptick in COVID cases. I hope you all had a wonderful Mardi Gras. So we will light 2 more candles. We will light one for the joys left unsaid, perhaps still waiting to be shared, and one for the sorrows left unsaid, perhaps that we cannot yet put words to. Know that we love you, and we hold you in our hearts. And next we have our Time for All Ages with Cynthia.
Oops, got my ear. I had a request. So this is so anyways, this was brought back by popular demand, the infamous anti-racist baby. Who knew that a child's book bred in RE could be so notorious? And I'm going to share the images. They're not as big as Ted's, but I want you to see it. Anti-racist baby is bred, not born. Anti-racist baby is raised to make society transform. This is the infamous image. Babies are taught to be racist or anti-racist. There is no neutrality. Take these 9 steps to make equity a reality. Ooh. Number 1, open your eyes to all skin colors. Anti-racist baby learns all the colors, not because race is true. If you claim to be colorblind, you deny what's right in front of you. Number 2, use your words to talk about race. No one will see racism if we all stay silent. If we don't name racism, it won't stop being so violent. Number 3, point at policies as the problem, not people. Some people get more while others get less, because policies don't always grant equal access. Number 4, shout. There's nothing wrong with people. Even though all races are not treated the same, we are all human. Anti-racist baby can proclaim. Number 5, celebrate all our differences. Anti-racist baby doesn't see certain groups as better or worse. Anti-racist baby loves a world that's truly diverse. Number 6, knock down the stack of cultural blocks. Anti-racist baby appreciates how groups speak, dance, and create as they choose. Anti-racist baby welcomes all groups voicing their unique views. Number 7, confess when being racist. Nothing disrupts racism more than when we confess the racist ideals that we sometimes express. Number 8, grow to be an anti-racist. Anti-racist baby is always learning, changing, and growing. Anti-racist baby stays curious about all people and isn't all-knowing. Number 9, believe we shall overcome racism. Anti-racist baby is filled with the power to transcend, my friend. And don't judge a book by its cover and read until the end. Scandalous, scandalous.
Good morning, Unitarian Church of Baton Rouge. It's so good to see you, and those of you online as well. Some of you I know. I'm Leslie Runnels. I grew up as an adult at First Church downtown. But I've been involved with a lot of your ministries over time with the Greater New Orleans Unitarian Universalist and the Center for Ethical Living and Social Justice Renewal. And I think the last time I was here, Fleur de Lis was still under construction, which you might remember how many years that was. I am finishing up my 3rd year of seminary and finishing up my 2nd year of an internship at the Baton Rouge Church in the Unitarian Church of Baton Rouge. And the Board of Trustees there provided me with a project to guide the congregation through the process of adopting the 8th principle. I'll tell you about that in a little bit. We took about 6 months to plan and organize and socialize the project and the information among church committees and members. We were pleased to get the author of the eighth principle, Paula Cole-Jones, to deliver her workshop to us, where we were living and loving in a learning community, stretching and reaching for new ways to continue to build our beloved community. We are in good company. As of now, 156 congregations have voted to adopt the eighth principle. The eighth principle reads, "We, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other impressions in ourselves and our institutions." This is bringing many of our congregations deeper into the work of dismantling racism within our own church communities, in our faith, and in our external communities. It is becoming our sacred work. And speaking of sacred work, let's go back in time a little bit and talk about some history. This history probably would be included in the history that is being, some states are trying to ban from being shared in school, along with the book that Cynthia just shared with us. So let's go back to 1452. This is 40 years before you-know-who sailed the ocean blue. This is when Pope Nicholas V issued the papal bull, that's P-A-P-A-L, bull, B-U-L-L, which is an edict, a directive, issued by the Pope. This papal bull was titled Dum Diversus, which authorized the King of Portugal to reduce any Saracens, who we would call Muslims, and pagans, and any other unbelievers to perpetual slavery. This is what facilitated the Portuguese slave trade from West Africa. So this becomes holy work, sanctified by the Pope. Dum diversus means until different. So until we tell you differently, this is the holy work you need to do. This holy work continued, and only 3 years later, the same Pope issued another papal bull, Romanus Pontifex, again to the King of Portugal, which declared war against all non-Christians throughout the world to capture, vanquish, and subdue the Saracens, pagans, and other enemies of Christ, to put them into perpetual slavery, and, this is the addition, to take all their possessions and property. So now it's not just taking people, it's taking their land and their resources. Holy work, sacred work, sanctioned by the Pope. And then in the infamous year 1492, Spain gets into the game, and Columbus sailed west, authorized by faith to take possessions of any lands he discovered that were not under the dominion of any Christian rulers. So you couldn't steal land that was already ruled by Christians, right? We're protecting each other here a little bit. But anything else was fair game. Fair, holy work. Just a year later, in 1493, a new pope, Alexander VI, issues the papal bull Inter Cetera, which means among other things, granting to Spain the right to conquer lands which Columbus had already found, as well as any lands which Spain might discover in the future. Columbus and his men used grim acts of genocide against the peaceful people of the Caribbean in order to carry out this holy work, this sacred work, sanctioned by the Catholic Church. This paved the way for Christian nations to believe that they had a divine right based on the Bible to claim absolute title to and ultimate authority over any newly discovered non-Christian people and their lands and their resources. Okay, that's some grim information to start out on a Sunday morning, but it is important for us to remember that the enslavement of African people and the theft of land, property, and possessions was sanctioned by the church with a capital C. In the 500 years since, there have been no papal bulls to correct these previous ones. No papal bulls saying that, oops, those were wrong, or denouncing the holy work that dehumanized people and destroyed lands. But our Unitarian Universalist theology and faith calls us into our own holy work. The eighth principle is pointing out that doing this work of dismantling racism and other oppressions is principle, accountable work, holy work, our own version of sacred work. Whether or not the words holy and sacred work with your own theological identities, I think you would get my point. We'll dive more into this sacred work in just a minute, but first, a reading by Yuri Yamamoto.
Listen. Listen to my story, so you may know me better, better, better. I am sharing a story of my own choice. For this brief moment, I ask you to suspend your own voice, and with no judgment, assumptions, or distractions, let my story seep into your heart. When the time comes for you to speak, I will do my part to listen. Listen to your story, so I may know you better, better, better. Listen. Listen to our stories, so we may know us better, better, better. Listen, listen, listen. Paula Cole-Jones has an online community on Facebook who meet on Zoom once a month. Here are some reflections from those who are embracing that work.
Trying to find another UU congregation. I would be looking for one that had the eighth principle, because otherwise it's too hard. I mean, it's too hard for me to go and to participate and have people. Let me put it like this: being around in a congregation where there's an eighth principle means that I'm around like-minded people, and I can be more comfortable and feel like we're all working on issues that include everybody, and it's something that happens, all day, every day, 24/7, throughout the year. It's not just on Black History Month.
If we build a more inclusive community that can affect everyone, like a butterfly effect. Like if one person's happy, their happiness may spread in the form of a small kindness or small action. And then with everyone feeling welcome, that would be a great thing to have in our church.
But even if you're following it, to declare that you're following it, because it helps people, it helps the movement. And I'd say that if they're not following it, that they need to get with the times, basically, and they need to help the change, because if they have power and are able to talk to people and sway public opinion, then I say that they need to start supporting this, because it's important and it helps the world.
Is the difference between just kind of resting on our laurels and actually taking action. I think some of the reasons why I've heard that certain congregations have not adopted it is that they feel that the other principles cover it, but it doesn't. It absolutely does not cover it. Because that eighth principle is about action. It's about dismantling racism. That takes action. And it talks about doing it within the institution. And that's our institution. And so it's about doing the work that needs to be done, that you think you're doing, but you're not really doing.
And that we all are broken and are looking to reconcile those things that we learned, experienced in this lifetime, received. And Gospel of Thomas, Gnostic Gospel of Thomas says, when the two become one, then you'll say mountain move and it will move. That's at the macro and micro level.
But if you really, I was just gonna say, I mean, how free do you want to be? Like, what do you want to wait for? You know, it's like being, in some ways, you know, in a lot of dialectics, the oppressor is more imprisoned than the oppressed. And the question is, would I sit in a jail cell wide open, with the door open, and choose to keep sitting in there? Why would I do that? You know, yet that is what white supremacy culture is. You're in a jail cell with a wide open door to freedom, and we keep sitting in it, choosing to. So I would say that the 8 principles, the beginning to the end of this dialectic of trying to shrink that line between the oppressor and the oppressed in some ways. It's just one lens I'm looking at right now, but to me my question to people is, you know, how free do you want to be and how quickly do you want to be free?
Now that gives me chills.
That, you know, actually hearing Ella's voice really centers it for me. We don't have any time to waste. We don't have another generation of children who are expendable. And we can live as if we do. And if we are, you know, we come from a long lineage of heretics. And what is the ultimate heresy in the United States? Right? What will we really be to, what heresy are we called to now to proclaim? And I think refuting, it's okay, she's okay. I think doing everything we can to not only dismantle racism, but to really think about that reconciliation. Reverend John, like that, what are we going towards? Not only what are we dismantling? And reparations.
Community Church Unitarian Universalist is a self-sustaining congregation. Members and friends' generosity help us do the sacred work of bringing justice, spirituality, and compassion to our community and beyond. You can also give to us online at ccuunola.org/stewardship or by text to 504-370-2659. Text the word give. You can also send us a check at 6690 Fleur-de-Lis Drive, New Orleans, Louisiana 70124.
I have pulled so much wisdom from this book, Unitarian Universalist of Color, Stories of Struggle, Courage, Love, and Faith. And I'm going to read some anonymous eavesdroppings, that's what they're called, that are spread throughout this book. And it is uncomfortable for me, a cis white woman, to read these words of UUs of color. Those of us who are white doing this work struggle with when we should say these words or when people of color should. So we reach out and ask people of color to read them for us, which puts more work and more emotional labor on people of color. So I read these words with deep respect to UUs of color. Here are some of their stories. I came to our church dinner a few times and no one sat with me. People who had already been there invited their friends to the tables, but not me. After that, I had to reassess my relationship with the church. I try so hard, but it still does not feel right. Something must be wrong with me. I'm sitting in this meeting with a bunch of white people discussing how to bring more black people to our church. I was objectified. Why should black people care? You can't generalize that all people of color have had bad experiences in a UU congregation. I love my church. My church is very diverse. I am a Universalist, so I'm not interested in a people of color meeting. And no, I did not realize that some people of color had a hard time in UU church. I am tired of people asking me where I am from. I don't like people telling me that I speak good English. I really hate people telling me that my US-born children speak excellent English. I don't have a very high expectation for my congregation. I just go there to get inspired by some good speakers, attend some meetings, and then go home. Last year, a man thought it was funny to wear a Mexican costume and fake a Spanish accent at a UU Latin fundraiser in a room full of white people. I find it hurtful when a white person dresses as a person from an oppressed race, especially if such race is painfully underrepresented as part of the group or event. I wrote an email to my minister, and the minister replied in a kind and understanding way that she will address it with the board. Since then, we've started a lot of racism and Black Lives Matter dialogues, and I am very proud of this group and our minister's support. The other day, I woke up with the idea of forming an actual congregation of UUs of color. Sunday services online once a month or once a quarter to start. I have no idea what it will take, but I figure it could be a great way to have people join us and create buzz in the UUA while we continue to attempt to fit in our own congregations. Has anyone considered that? Here we are waiting for white people to change. Let's start with us first. A safe place for us first. And then we can decide as a group who to invite. Start small and build from there. The eighth principle is asking us to dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and in our institutions. The stories I just shared show us why we need to do the work right here in each of our congregations. Some of the stories I shared drive home the saying that people of color are not a monolith. There were stories I shared that said things are just fine. But that's only a few voices among a chorus of a different story. These stories are not meant to make white people feel bad or to feel guilty or to feel hopeless. These stories are shared with us so that we know what our truth is. We know we are working towards building beloved community, but we aren't there yet. We need to do more work. More intentional work focused on ending racism and oppression right here. In the video, Shannon Lang, who said we don't need to rest on our laurels, but we need to take action, she says, to dismantle racism will take action. So the eighth principle is calling us into action. And thankfully, we are very well resourced by the Movement for Collective Liberation, by our UU faith leaders, those of color and those who are white. We have all kinds of data, all kinds of stories, all kinds of books, movies, prayers, sermons, curriculum, trainings. that help us move closer to collective liberation. Much of the healing work to be done is on ourselves. Systems of oppression have told us stories about ourselves. Those of us who are white have been told a message of superiority, that we are better, brighter, more deserving. So we respond to that message with behaviors that actually uphold racism. We tend towards perfectionism, competition, entitlement, exaggerated outrage. Think about the Beckys and the Karens that we hear about, but also the Leslies. Individualism, silence, violence, defensiveness, worship of the written word, which is why we want to wordsmith the 8th principle so badly. And this is just a short list. But these behaviors, which we do unconsciously, set the norm and standards that this is how we should be, which makes it hard for any other culture to fit in here. And each of these behaviors needs its own sermon, and that will be part of our work going forward. People of color have been given a different message by systems of oppression, that you are less than, less deserving. And you have cultivated behaviors in response to this message: tokenism, colorism, exaggerated visibility, denial, distancing. This is also just a short list. But that is the work you have to do. It's not just white people that need to do the work. We all need to do the work. And we can support each other in the work, but we can't do the work for each other. As each faith community digs down deeper into this work and play of dismantling racism, we must realize that these characteristics that we all exhibit are part of what keeps us in that rut of racism. So our work will be to decide, as Reverend TJ asked us, how free do we want to be? And how quickly? How long do we want to sit in this jail with an open door? More to come, but let's listen to what Reverend Hope Johnson has written for us.
This is called One Love. We are one, a diverse group of proudly kindred spirits, here not by coincidence, but because we choose to journey together. We are active and proactive. We care deeply. We live our love as best we can. We are one, working, eating, laughing, playing, singing, storytelling, sharing, and rejoicing, getting to know each other, taking risks, opening up, questioning, seeking, searching, trying to understand, struggling, making mistakes, paying attention, asking questions, listening, living our answers, learning to love our neighbors, learning to love ourselves, apologizing and forgiving with humility, being forgiven through grace, creating the beloved community together. We are one.
In the reflection video, I loved how Reverend Robin reminded us that we Unitarian Universalists have a legacy of heretics. Our early founders were often burned at the stake with their manuscripts strapped to their bodies. Disputing the Trinity or claiming salvation as a universal gift was heretical, and we were persecuted and tried and executed. But we persisted, and we are here, living a faith that claims we are all worthy of love and salvation. And as Reverend Robin asked, what is the ultimate heresy here in the U.S.? Disputing the false idea that white people are better than, disrupting the systems that are set up to oppress and marginalize whole groups of people. The ultimate heretical act, dismantle racism. The 8th principle, while is not a papal bull coming from a pope, has been written and given life by people of color, by UUs of color, in community with white UUs, who feel a deep call to dismantle racism in ourselves, our congregations, our communities, our systems. I understand that this congregation is in a period of transition where you are between ministers, still deep in a global pandemic, and living in a part of the country that is now experiencing disconcerting tornadoes. You have a lot on your plate, and I have lots of love and support for you as you go through a discernment process to continue your ministry here at Community Church Unitarian Universalist. This may or may not be the time to discern about adopting the eighth principle here in this congregation. I know and recognize that you have a strong history of living out all of the principles, and that you have a strong history of dismantling racism and other oppressions. Your work shows here in the building, in your faces, and in your relationships with each other. Reverend John read the scripture that said, "When the two become one, then you can say, 'Mountain, move,' and the mountain will move." As you join together in this work across the nation and beyond, we will be moving the mountain called racism. And that's a big job, moving mountains. But it can be done, and it is being done. We will dismantle this mountain of racism. This is our holy work, our sacred work. No one else in this can do this in our faith but us. May it be so. Amen, ashe, and blessed be the heresy. And now a sweet gift from Paula Cole-Jones. She shared this video with the Baton Rouge congregation. I'm happy to share it with you here as well. Please enjoy. There are some songs you just can't help from singing, right? I felt that. Beloveds, the moral arc of the universe isn't going to bend itself. So let's get out there and spread some love and do some work and dismantle some racism. Have a beautiful week.